Shovel Knight has reached incredible popularity for an indie title, and they continue to make all the right moves. If you bought the treasure pack when it came out, you received all the subsequent DLC added to the game. Aside from the base game Shovel Knight, they added 3 DLC that are entire new games to the series, and all equal the same length as the original game. They also added a fighting game as the 4th DLC. Of course, they did raise the price with the latest release, so you will have to pay a higher price to get the whole package now. But if you invested early, you now have all the games, which is awesome. Today we're going to take a look at the most recent release from last week, King of Cards. Just like the previous DLC added, this is a prequel story explaining the origins of King Knight. Each DLC has been more than just a new character. Every time we have seen new levels, home bases, NPCs, and sub-weapons. But most importantly, every time we get a new character, we get a new and unique moveset. Even Shovel Knight himself played a bit differently than you would expect from most action platformers. Well, King Knight is no different, and he may have the most unique moveset yet in my opinion. King Knight's moveset is simple, it's just dash attack, howbeit, whenever he strikes an enemy, or surface, he bounces up in the air directly into a spin move, which you can use to bounce off of enemies and specific destructible blocks. You do have an option to do a roll attack, which allows you to not bounce up from it, but it rarely seemed useful, and I stuck to the spin jump almost the entire game. Sub-weapons were used to pick some enemies off in the distance, but I rarely touched those as well. It seems very simple at first, but the more you get into the game, the more you see how this mechanic can really be used for unique platforming. The platforming is where the game's challenge comes from. You have to get used to the timing and the distance of your dash, as if you miss midair, you'll just slowly fall to your death. Though if you have a dash left, it does make for some interesting saves that would normally have killed you without this moveset. Combat in the game is quite easy. None of the bosses should give you any challenge, and you get tons of life. Enemies will drop life constantly, you can cry to self-heal, and you can get healing upgrades. Essentially, you should never run out of life, and most of your deaths should come from pitfalls. So to me, the strength of this DLC comes from the platforming. There will be interesting moments where you will have to string together a dash move into a wall bounce off an enemy into a dash move just to keep going. The level design for King Knight's levels are clearly made for the spin jumping mechanic. They do a great job integrating his movement to constantly be interesting within the level design. With King Knight, we go back to the Mario 3 overworld style map. Navigating the overworld map seems a bit more in depth than normal. They added secret exits, so you can open up branching paths just as in Super Mario World. You also find that many of the boss fights seem to spawn randomly on the overworld map, and you can fight them through there. The map itself has more levels than any other of the games in the series, and while King Knight has far more levels, the level length is also much shorter. Instead of having 5 or 6 checkpoint levels, all his levels seem to have just 1 or 2. The levels still have a nice length to them, and with the extra levels, the game length actually feels a bit longer. This also may be because of the added card game, where you get to smash cards into the other cards and get gems or something like that. I don't know, it kind of felt like curling the card game. Each card had a direction arrow on them, and you can use that to push cards around the board in that direction. The idea is to fill the center colored tiles in, and try to collect the most gems on the board with your cards. The opponent can knock you off the gem and take them from you, and vice versa. This card game, called Joust, is unique to King of Cards, and it does get a bit challenging to beat your opponents. Playing Joust is not required to beat the game, you can actually skip it entirely. Though I do recommend trying it. It felt unique for a card game, at least I've never played one like it. It is a fun addition, though I just kinda wanted to get to the levels after trying it out for a while. If you enjoy when games include card games, this is probably one of the better ones you can play with, and the opponents do seem to use actual strategy, so they have good AI. The story of the game is the level you would expect. It's on par with the rest of Shovel Knight's series. It's nice and brief, it has its little moments of humor, and it keeps moving. There isn't really much to say here, other than King Knight's motives all feel like that of a 10-year-old. His mom makes him buy food from her, so maybe it's just his upbringing. However, his childish motives make the story feel as it was just thrown together to be there, to explain the existence in the original game. But if you're this far into the series, you're not playing it for the story. Its gameplay is good, if not better than all the others in the series, and the music is just as great. With the unique movement style of the game, this made me enjoy the King Knight DLC most of the series. I would definitely recommend playing this. Pick it up if you don't own it, or if you already have the series, you get it for free, then there's no reason not to play this in that case. With that said, I hope you enjoyed my review of King of Cards. If you did, there's more videos in my backlog for you to check out, and more planned in the future, so stick around. Not to mention, you could also join the Discord, so I'd love it if you stopped by and chatted. Thanks for stopping by.